Investing $1,000 and turning it into 10,000 might sound like a dream. Or maybe even a clickbait title, but what if I told you it's completely achievable? And I've done it myself. My name is Alex, and today I'm going to show you exactly how I turned $1,000 into 10,000 using smart investing. Trust me, this isn't some risky gamble, and you definitely don't need to be an expert to do it. But before we dive into the exact strategy, let me first ask you this. What do you think was the biggest mistake I made when I first started investing? Was it picking the wrong stock, selling too early, or maybe listening to bad advice? Stick around because I'll reveal the answer soon, and you won't believe how common this mistake actually is. When I first started, I was like most beginners, eager, curious, but also very confused. I read books, watched countless YouTube videos, and even attended some seminars. But guess what? All that knowledge felt overwhelming, and instead of clarity, it gave me more confusion. So how did I finally get started? The first step was simple. I had to set clear goals. Here's the twist. It's not about saying, I want to get rich. It's about defining specific and realistic targets. So instead of saying I wanted $10,000 immediately, I broke it down into smaller, manageable milestones. And here's the crazy part. I never imagined this little step would be so critical to my success. So if you want to achieve similar results, ask yourself right now, what exactly am I investing for? Once I knew my goal, I had to pick the right investing vehicle. Now everyone talks about stocks and crypto, but what really worked for me might surprise you. Here's the thing, I didn't put all my money in risky high flyers or trending stocks that made headlines. Instead, I chose solid companies with strong financial histories and consistent performance. But wait, how exactly do you identify these hidden gems without getting overwhelmed by complex financial jargon? Well, here's the simplest strategy I found that literally anyone can use. Look for companies that you actually understand. Think about it. How much do you genuinely know about that trendy biotech firm your friend keeps talking about? Probably not much, right? Instead, I started with companies whose products I personally used and loved. Think Apple, Nike, or Starbucks. Sounds simple enough, right? But here's where things really started getting interesting. After picking these stocks, the next big step was managing risk. Now, risk is a scary word for beginners, but what if I told you there's a super easy way to manage risk effectively? And it's not complicated at all. Most beginners either panic and sell when markets dip or get overly excited and buy when prices are high. But here's the truth. Both reactions can wipe out your portfolio. Instead, I use something called dollar cost averaging. Now, don't worry. It's not as complex as it sounds. It simply means investing a fixed amount of money into the market regularly, no matter what. But why exactly does this work so well, and how did it help me multiply my money by 10? Because it takes emotion completely out of the equation. When markets were down, my fixed investment amount automatically bought me more shares, and when markets were up, I avoided the temptation to overspend on overpriced stocks. This strategy alone gave me stability and predictability in my investments, something every beginner desperately needs. So far, we've set clear goals, picked easy-to-understand companies, and used dollar cost averaging to manage risk. But there's one more critical step that most beginners totally overlook: reinvesting dividends. You've probably heard of dividends, but do you know exactly how powerful they are in building wealth? And what happens if you keep reinvesting them consistently over time? Well, let me show you exactly how this simple move massively boosted my returns and sped up my journey from $1,000 to $10,000. But before that, let's quickly recap so you're crystal clear on the first 3 essential steps. Because if you miss even one, your results might suffer significantly. We covered setting clear, realistic goals to stay motivated, choosing stocks of companies you actually understand, and managing risk through dollar cost averaging. Now let's talk about dividends, the secret sauce to multiplying your investments rapidly. So how exactly did dividends accelerate my portfolio growth? And how can you replicate my exact strategy starting today? Let's dive deeper into dividends and reveal the surprising power they hold. Reinvesting dividends is like planting seeds from the fruits you've already harvested, creating even more growth over time. But how exactly does this process speed up the journey from $1,000 to $10,000? Think of dividends as extra money that companies pay you simply for holding their stocks. Instead of spending this money, I immediately put it back into buying more shares. This small step might seem insignificant at first, but here's the secret. It creates an incredible snowball effect. Every dividend reinvested bought me more shares, and those new shares generated even more dividends. Over time, this turned into a powerful cycle of compounding growth. Imagine your investments growing exponentially without you lifting a finger. Sounds amazing, right? And that's exactly how dividends helped transform my portfolio. But let's pause for a second. Remember earlier when I mentioned a big investing mistake I made as a beginner? It's finally time to reveal it, and you'll be shocked by how common it is. When I started, I checked my investments constantly, every single day. I became obsessed with small fluctuations, and honestly, it drove me crazy. But why is constantly checking your portfolio so harmful to your long-term gains? It's simple. Watching daily price movements triggers emotions, and emotional investing leads to terrible decisions. I found myself panic selling when prices dropped slightly or impulsively buying when prices rose quickly. Both reactions sabotaged my long-term strategy. So, how did I overcome this costly habit? And what can you do right now to avoid falling into this trap? I limited myself to checking my portfolio once a month. Yes, just once. This simple rule drastically reduced stress and prevented impulsive decisions based on short-term market movements. By stepping back, I allowed my carefully selected investments the time they needed to grow naturally. Remember, investing is a marathon, not a sprint. Now there's still one crucial question left. When exactly should you sell your investments? Knowing when to sell is just as important as knowing when to buy, and yet so many beginners get this completely wrong. Some sell too early, missing huge gains, while others hold on to losing investments far too long. Here's the straightforward strategy I used. Set clear selling criteria from the beginning. For me, if a company's fundamental situation drastically changed, or the stock price reached my predetermined target, I sold. No hesitation, no second guessing. This clear, rule-based approach made my decisions easy and profitable. So let's quickly summarize everything you need to know to replicate my success. First, set clear goals. Next, invest in companies you understand. Manage risk using dollar-cost averaging. Always reinvest your dividends to accelerate growth. Limit how often you check your portfolio to avoid emotional decisions. And finally, know exactly when to sell. But wait, before you jump into investing, there's one last secret I haven't shared yet. It's the single most valuable lesson I learned on this journey, and it's not what you'd expect. Curious? Let me tell you what it is, and how applying this one powerful insight can completely change your investing results forever. The biggest secret to turning $1,000 into $10,000 isn't complicated strategies or advanced techniques. It's patience. Yes, patience. The most powerful investing tool you have isn't a fancy app or insider tip. It's your ability to wait. Time in the market beats timing the market every single time. When I finally understood this, investing became simple, stress-free, and incredibly rewarding. You don't need to constantly chase the latest hot stocks or obsess over market timing. Just invest consistently, stick to your strategy, and give your money time to grow, that's it. If you follow these straightforward practical steps, you'll find that turning $1,000 into $10,000, or even more, isn't just possible. It's practically inevitable. Now it's your turn. Are you ready to start your own investing journey today?